Now we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of what Indians are all about.
I still say we Indian people are believers in the truth. This is the way of life that was given to your people. You're born an Indian, you're going to die an Indian. Indianness is a good life. You're facing an Indian this afternoon.
Good Saturday afternoon out there, everyone, and welcome to your number one source for Native American television news. It's Native News Today. I'm your host, Jason Salzman, here in the Mvskoke Media Studios as we get ready for this week's episode. We have lots to share with you today, lots of informational content is what we have today. We have a couple of interviews that we're going to be sharing with you. One is our continuance in our series feature on each member of Principal Chief James Floyd's cabinet as they become confirmed by National Council vote. And our newest confirmation is Mr. Sam Whitlow. He is the new Secretary of Housing, and he will be on with us in just a few short minutes. He came in studio last week, so we were able to get that interview. Also, we'll be talking with Principal Chief James Floyd himself about a couple of important legislations introduced at the latest council meetings. So you don't want to miss any of that. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Looking for your next 18-hole adventure? Then take a look at Fountainhead Creek Golf Club. Nestled in the beautiful confines of Lake Eufaula State Park, large sloping greens and well-placed bunkers characterize the Mvskoke Creek Nation's Floyd Farley designed course and offers a fine test of skill for any golfer. Stay up on all the latest gear and equipment with a visit to our pro shop. Have lunch at the Turn at the Clubhouse Grill. We're waiting to accommodate you at Fountainhead Creek. Give us a call at 918-689-3209 or visit fountainheadgolf.com to book your next round. Fountainhead Creek Golf Club, close to home, far from ordinary.
We believe if you teach a man to fish, you can feed him for a lifetime. We believe that transitioning convicted citizens back into our communities enhances public safety. We believe that every citizen, even ex-prisoners, are important and are capable of change. We believe in reclaiming our citizens and investing them back into a culture that embraces healing and restoration.
We believe
in reintegration.
And welcome back to the program. Let's get started with our first interview. As I told you in the opener, there were a couple of legislations that came before the National Council that they addressed in an emergency session recently. These were dealing with the restructuring of a loan having to deal with our health system. So, to clear up some of the questions that people had on this loan, the amount, the nature of it, all of that, we sat down in his office with Principal Chief James Floyd on the matter.
Well, the emergency session earlier this week was intended to accomplish two things. One, to set the terms of the financing deal for the construction completion of the Okemah Medical Center and the instrument that will be the construction documents for and the funding for the Eufaula joint venture with the Indian Health Service clinic project. That was one of the bills. The second was the operational money appropriation that will, or authority that will allow us to now utilize funds to pay some of the pending debts that were in the healthcare system since October 1 and pay those back bills that we owe, so that as we go into 2017, and the budget for 2017 is a balanced healthcare budget, we kind of wipe the slate clean and start 2017 fresh for operations. Right. The third thing, I guess, that was accomplished with the action Tuesday night was the repeal of TR 16-045. That was either in February or March, that allowed the health department to restructure and for us to access a loan. Now, the section of restructuring is the only component that remained. The council took action to repeal 16-045 because it's no longer necessary. Now, as we kind of move forward from that date to today and this week, there is a gap of about 6 months or so. The reason that we had that gap is that we've totally restructured how we would borrow money. And what we have moved to is a loan management agreement, otherwise known as a letter of credit. That's much different than what we had before, which were basically term loans, 5-year term loans, and at the end of 5 years, a balloon payment or restructuring of the remaining debt that we would owe. We had to work with 2 different lending groups, and both of them are a consortium of banks. And so when you are dealing with a consortium, every party involved had to approve it. So the length of time was to satisfy all of those people that represented institutions that were part of the loan agreement and the new one as well, because Bank of America Merrill Lynch is who we were moving to. So, I think it's to the credit of Bank of Oklahoma that they were open to us changing the terms of things and moving to another institution for this purpose here. So the line of credit doesn't mean that we're going to fully utilize $90 million. It's available up to that limit as we need. The other benefit of the loan management agreement is that we only pay interest on the money that we draw down, and so the interest is set at the time that we draw money down. For instance, as I spoke about the bills we have to pay, we will pull money down to pay those bills, and then we'll also pull down the construction money at some point, and we'll have an interest set at that. Overall, the interest is lower under the loan management agreement than it was under the balloon 5-year agreement. Bank of Oklahoma will still be involved because they were the initial party to finance the medical center in Okemah. They extended the date to June 30th, 2017. By that time, we will have the hospital and clinic completed in Okemah. We'll have it occupied, and then we'll continue to pay on that loan that we have through Bank of Oklahoma. The Bank of America Merrill Lynch loan management agreement will be enforced probably by the end of today, and it's a more open lending document that allows us more freedom and less interest. Now, some people may be confused and say, why are you going after a $90 million loan? You had this authority in February or March under the previous resolution. And so the answer is we're not going after $90 million and will not be spending an additional $90 million. That instrument was already in place and had been in place since 2008. And we had not used it under the construction of the River Spirit Casino, but that instrument being available to us has now been updated and simplified, so we will use it as we need it. And so if our total cost of construction and operation that we see that we need is only $65 million, which we anticipate, that's all that we will draw down. And then the remaining part we will never pay interest on. It's pledged with a permanent fund just like it had been since 2008. But we don't take anything out of the permanent fund. The permanent fund monies continue to draw the same interest it did last week as it does this week, and we'll still have money coming to the tribe from the interest. So nothing is really, nothing in fact, is taken from the permanent fund. The permanent fund is only pledged in case we should have some default or something like that, that's the protection that the lending agency had from 2008, and the same thing that the Bank of Oklahoma utilized in the initial 5-year loan for Okemah. The National Council called an executive session, and they asked me and the second chief and the controller to remain. We did. The purpose of going into executive session is to hear some of the concerns of the council members, but sometimes we talk about information that, if released to the public, kind of puts us in a position where we could be compromised in any future deals that we do, because it does at times could touch upon the net value of the tribe and things like that. So we went into a short executive session. Questions were answered, and then immediately the executive session ended, went back into regular session, discussed the bill, and the bills were passed. Well, I think several things I'd like to add to our citizens is, one, that the lending instrument that we have is probably the best instrument that we could have had. The interest rate is very low. It's going to be at present less than 2%, and it still allows us to proceed with the construction of the Eufaula Clinic and hopefully begin that construction by November. It also provides savings to the tribe because we avoid a number of fees that we would have under conventional lending. And those fees can be significant into thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars when you're dealing with millions of dollars of loans and a number of banks. So by going to this loan management agreement with one entity, we avoid the fees, have a lower interest rate, and so the benefit to the tribe is that we're doing the best that we can. Even if we have to borrow money, we're doing it at the lowest rate. We don't have to go back in for refinancing every 5 years, and there's less disruption. I think more stability, not only internally for us, but I think if the public were to look at that and evaluate us, they would see that we're on pretty sound footing as a healthcare system in terms of our money, and not see any spikes up and down, of a fluctuation of our value. So it gives us some stability, I think, for the system as a whole. It gives us confidence too that now we can move forward and not be worried about, do we have to go seek other loans and things like that. So in the end, everybody benefits, and I think as stakeholders of the tribe and citizen myself, I think it's a great deal because we obtain the money, but we don't have to pay as much money as we would have had to pay in the past. As we go forward in the health department, in the bills that we have been discussing are very specific health bills. It provides us the operational money that we need. The Eufaula Clinic, as an example, is a joint venture with the Indian Health Service, and so in order to have the joint venture, we had to come up with the construction costs. They share with us the operational costs for the next 20 years. So it provides us an entry into money that we would not have had access to before. That provides stability, allows us to expand in Eufaula, and we can provide more services to more people there. So that part, as we move forward, is very sound. The Indian Health Service is in full agreement with us. We've talked to them about that, and we're ready to go now that we've got the instrument in place. The other part of that is that we do move forward with OKEMA. It's still scheduled to be completed in the end of this end of this calendar year in December, and be opening shortly thereafterward. And then it allows the health system to grow. As they grow, it allows us to have access to more revenue through third-party billing and agreements with other healthcare organizations and potential grant money that will help us not only just to meet our operating cost, but to also hopefully have the profits to begin to pay that back. Now, originally the tribe would use its capital fund to pay back that loan, and I think you'll probably see a combination of that plus some healthcare money coming in. We've seen our third-party collections grow significantly in the last 6 months as they've worked hard to identify more alternate resources. We'll continue to work on that, and then as the hospitals open, more business coming in, that's how the healthcare system operates as a business. And it really is a business because we have 2 community hospitals in Okemah and Okmulgee. So it is a business, and it just hasn't made money in the past. The restructuring authority that we continue to need will allow us to make those changes as we go forward so that the system operates efficiently.
And thanks again to Principal Chief James Floyd for his time to clarify that. And if you want to see that interview again, it is on our online channel. Moving right along, as I said earlier, we have a series focusing on members of Principal Chief James Floyd's cabinet here at the Mvskoke Creek Nation as they become confirmed into those cabinet positions. Our latest, most recent, being Samuel Whitlow over as the director of the Housing Division. So we had him in studio. Here's that interview. And as we continue our series highlighting the cabinet members in Principal Chief James Floyd's cabinet, we are now joined with Sam Whitlow, the new director of the Housing Division. Mr. Whitlow, thank you for being with us today here on Native News Today.
I'm glad to be here.
Well, we, for you, really, it's a little bit of deja vu. Of course, back in, I think you said around 92, being in the compliance department at Mvskoke Creek Nation Housing. For you, what's it been like to come back and see what all's changed and maybe what all is a little bit similar?
Well, the rules that we deal with in the HUD programs are all the same. Mm-hmm. They hadn't changed that much, but I noticed a lot of new buildings, new programs that they have here that wasn't here the last time I was here. But
yeah, you make a point there.
Looks like we made a lot of progress since then, here.
Absolutely. You make a point there, though, that the rules haven't changed. There's things that are right in black and white and been there for many years and are easy to discern. Why do you think it is, or in your opinion, it's things kind of get out of compliance sometimes, maybe in our case?
Some of the tribal policies that we have, they haven't been updated since 2005, I believe. So we need to update some of those policies to get up to the current situations that we run into now, which we didn't before.
Are you in the process of getting those?
Yeah, I'm reviewing all those different programs and different policies that we have at this time.
When you look into it as well, we've reported on some things here in the last year or so where there were waivers, things of that sort. Back in your experience when you were, with the compliance office, was that ever something that was permissible or even thought of? Was the waiver process there?
Well, the time I was in here, we never did do any waivers during my time because I was in compliance, and back then Mr. Chief Beaver was in office at that time, and he kind of allowed us to research all the information that we had, or like HUD programs, regulations, plus tribal regulations. We'd inform him what needed to be done, and he would go ahead and just follow our direction. So during his term, I don't believe we ever had anything that really was written up about the housing department.
You look at over the years, like you said, some things change, some stay the same, but the HUD requirements, when you are having to report to a certain body like HUD, something that's looking over some of our housing, things like that, do you make a quarterly report? How does that work? Who are you reporting to?
Well, like you're talking about the reports, mm-hmm. HUD reports ain't very difficult because they never change that much, and we have a contact person, and we contact the individual every time we make a report or we have questions, and they work with us, so we're able to make these reports. But the way I understand it, since I've only been here a short time, that my understanding is we're going to make a report every quarter.
Now, when you come in and you say, all right, clean slate, I got to look at everything on the surface, what are some of the areas that you've identified maybe that you think we can maybe improve on a little bit with our housing operation?
I think maybe the organization of the staff and the duties that they have. Because some of the duties that they have does not match the job descriptions that they have that they're working under. And So we're trying to correct those also at the same, at the time we redo the organization part of it.
All right. I've talked to other people too that have been in the same position that it seemed like a general theme was always, if we could maybe streamline the operation, who people go through, who they talk to, everything like that. Are you still seeing those type of problems where we need to maybe streamline it, or are things more ordered as far as the actual process of calling up and getting involved in the system?
Well, that's what I was saying. We have to reorganize. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have to.
Right, yeah.
So we do have those problems. That's the main purpose for this, to eliminate some of those.
Yeah.
But again, we do have a lot of red tape, or whatever you want to call it, that we have to deal with HUD, because everything we do, we have to report to them and make sure that we're in compliance with their requirements, because it is their funding that we're using, and we're required to follow whatever requirements that they have. And at sometimes, some point, some of them, were lax in that area because of the policies that tribe had did not coincide with the HUD regulations that we was following.
Anything that the housing has planned for maybe in the future? Any new programs we haven't heard of? Anything like that you're excited about?
Well, I'm just kind of excited to be here. I mean, because it's kind of fun. Somebody said it's a challenge. To me, I enjoy doing this type of work. So it's just like I enjoy coming to work now. But again, there's a lot of people that that are really knowledgeable of what they're doing, but they just never had direction to carry out implement their programs that they have. And as I talk to each one of them, they all say about the same thing. They just need direction.
And I imagine being Mvskoke Creek yourself, it's probably quite an honor to be able to help citizens get into homes and help them find homes.
Yes, it is. And I was surprised that a lot of people I see, I knew from the past working here, or that I knew just in my everyday life, they're coming through, and I see them each day that they come by. And, well, I know you was back. I said, yeah, I'm here. So we've been. They kind of enjoy. Some of them, they say they're glad that I was back. So I don't know what kind of impression I left with them in the last time, but evidently it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, we all hear as citizens and everyone out there about the waiting list, to get on in the program, and you're on it. Maybe some say, oh, my mother's been on there for several years. Well, I know other people have kind of moved up and whatnot. Have you seen that before at other tribes or anything like that, where it has become a problem, or do you think that's a myth or something that actually happens?
I really couldn't answer that because I've never done it. So,
right.
Matter of fact, I even got with the staff that are preparing the waiting list, and I talked with them, and they gave me a list of what we had. And we have a little over 400 people on the waiting list. So if we can do 40, 50 houses a year, if you're even 200, it's still going to be 4 years before you can get up to the top.
How are we now as far as compliance? Would you say we've obviously had a few issues here in the last year, but how would you say we are right now, and what are you hearing from HUD as far as the compliance issues?
Well, matter of fact, I talked to Wayne Sims, director of HUD at Oklahoma City, yesterday. And he was kind of he said he was glad to see me back because we've worked together before, and he was an executive director when I was, and we kind of grew up, doing these type of programs. And I was talking to him, and he said that he didn't believe that we really have any problems, that we can probably work it out. But again, he got back to, well, since I know you're going to make the attempt to do it right, so he said, I think we can overcome the things that had issues here at one point.
What are your plans, or what our plans are in place to repay the funds that HUD has had issues with in the audit?
I really couldn't address that right now because we did respond to their findings, and we were waiting for them to respond back to us to tell us exactly what the amounts were, because my understanding is some of those findings, we were able to answer some of those. So I don't know if it's going to be the same type of findings when it gets back to us again, so that's what we're waiting on at this time.
Do you have any thoughts on how we maybe shorten the amount of wait time, or maybe, more than 40, 50 homes a year, as you mentioned? Is there any way we can do that?
As far as the 50 units a year, I don't know if we can do any more than that, because all the funding that we have, it is from HUD. Tribe does not put into any type of funds to increase the amount of funds that we need to even develop more units. So I don't know if we'd ever get to that point where we can eliminate that waiting list.
Recently, and even on this program, we talked with a citizen that brought a suit against housing and against the nation regarding some issues that they had had with their home and that hadn't been resolved. So my question to you would be, if we had things like this in the future or instances like this arise, maybe how would we handle it?
Well, I'm not too familiar with the issues you're talking about, but I know we've had some issues where they're saying that we don't come back and maintain the units that we provided them. But again, when they come into the program, they sign an agreement saying they're going to maintain those units, and that's their agreement they signed. And a lot of those tenants aren't doing that, and then they're blaming the tribe for not doing that. But HUD says they're supposed to be responsible for it.
What would you like citizens to know about yourself in this role and some of the things you'd like to accomplish?
I like to leave with people thinking I was fair with everyone. And I think that's the biggest complaint we hear or concern is that they weren't treated fair. And so far I've had an open door policy, which I always have. And I have people in my office all day. Sometimes I can't even go eat lunch. But again, they drove all the way to my office to talk to me about their concerns. So I don't know why I shouldn't give them a little extra time to listen to each one of them. So that's what I've been doing. So that way, that's the only way I can learn what's out there is talking to the people that have these issues and concerns that they come in and talk to us.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Whitlow, for sitting with us today, talking about some of these issues and talking about your plans for the future. And we wish the best of luck in your position there.
Thank you.
All right, that'll wrap us up for this week's episode of Native News Today. I want to thank all of our guests for coming in. Sometimes we've got to be, fly by the seat of our pants here at Mvskoke Media and Native News Today. So the interviews come in and they're available then. We may not be ready for them. We bring them in. We're ready to go. So you kind of have to be quick in this business. And we want to thank all of our viewers out there for being patient with us as we get these interviews and being able to secure the information that you need as citizens from some of the folks in the positions that you want answers from. So I want to keep encouraging you to all of the stories that we cover here on Native News Today. Everything that we cover on Mvskoke Media can be found easily on mvskokemedia.com. Our interface there is really easy to navigate through. You can find all of our news. Also, stay with us on all of our social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as we are on Snapchat, Mvskoke Media. Look for us out there. For everyone here at Native News Today, you all have a great week. We'll see you next Saturday.